The emphasis from Microsoft now is really Business Central is one part of the whole of their ecosystem. So this kind of quite busy diagram really tries to show all the things in Microsoft's head when they talk about their business applications and where we sit inside that. So we're part of the Dynamics 365 in the middle there in red. And then we have very close access to primarily the sorts of things that we're interested in: Office 365, the Power Platform, so that's Power BI and the Power Apps, and the common data service and the Azure services. So hopefully I can show you a bit later on when we look at Business Central that the links from Microsoft to all of these, they've built lots of them already. And they've made a lot of the links available to, they call it no code or low code. So the idea is that anyone can pick up a Power Platform, Power App, link a flow in and then do some work. In reality, it needs a bit of knowledge. You need to be a little bit technical. But the idea is that all these things are within the capability of you, the customers. And where you can't do that, then we can help from our side to do the extras, if you like. But so when we think of Business Central now, especially on SaaS, all of this comes to mind. So the solutions we come up with going forward might not be we build something in Business Central. It might be that's something that needs a Power App hooking into a common data service that someone can access on their phone, but then maybe the data would come into Business Central. So in terms of the nuts and bolts of where we are with Microsoft, so this is the Business Central roadmap. Like you all know, they have wave updates every 6 months. So at the moment, we are kind of almost ready to do April 2021 wave update. And they give us details of what's been released and what will be released. So if I just click on planned releases. So if you're interested to see what is in the software or what's coming up that's new as far as Microsoft are concerned, then you can click on links like this, and here they go through what they're planning to put live, both in, so there's a public preview so people can get to see it first, and then it's available to everyone. They're not committing to anything on this list, they're just saying we expect it to go live at these times. So depending on where you are in your product version, if you move over to SaaS, you'll obviously get everything up to that point that's in the SaaS product, and then these will just roll up every 6 months or so, new extra bits and pieces. So if I scroll down here, for example, one that Cindy saw or noticed a couple of weeks ago, there's an improvement to bank reconciliation where you can roll back reconcile transactions, which sounds quite nice. Looks like they're improving something to do with contacts and interactions. And that one, we haven't looked at that yet, but that sounds quite interesting, where you can roll back posted dimensions on GL entries. So we're always looking at these, but it's information that's publicly available that everyone can have a look at. The other thing that's interesting from a roadmap point of view is the ideas that Microsoft want both you and us to give them. So there's a platform where you can search for ideas or suggestions that people have made, or you can create your own. So if I go into something like inventory, so we've been putting lots of suggestions in more on the technical side to let us do Bevica functionality we want. But these are things that anyone, for example, that one, that's come up before, I've heard of that, people asking for that. So you put it on here, you vote for it, and at some point Microsoft say, yes, that's a good idea, no, that's not. And if you were to go through this list, you'd see that there are quite a few things here that do make it into the next version or the next release of the product. So maybe somewhere else to have a look and try and push Microsoft in certain directions. Yeah, just ongoing releases. We keep an eye on those web pages to see what's coming up next. But in terms of the overview of what Microsoft are trying to do with their upgrades, this is kind of a salesy list. This is what they're trying to achieve where they're up with their upgrades. So those things in bold. Some of them we'll be more interested in. So the modern development tools, that's something that we're always keeping track of. But things like better with Microsoft 365, that's where SaaS really comes into its own. That they're always improving things in terms of the integration with all their other bits of software. So as I said before, the 365, the Power Platform, that kind of runs alongside the releases in the same way. I haven't gone into any detail here because it's a huge topic, all the different areas that they cover. They all have their own websites, their own web pages, their updates, their releases, their ideas, etc. So I won't go into detail now. In terms of Bevica SaaS, so this is the roadmap so far with our product. We launched it last year, as you know, and for us, the internal proof of concept was the key, both for T-Vision, where in the SaaS environment, I think we proved to ourselves that it's possible to move Bevica over. So now we have 2 customers live on the SaaS environment, 1 implementing, and what they're using is the basic fundamentals that you all know from your current systems. So it all works. It works quite nicely, and we're mirroring the releases from Microsoft in terms of our own releases. So our plan is that every 6 months we do a major release of new functionality, and we do kind of minor hot fixes as we go along. So to mirror the idea of Microsoft, if I go to our Bevica releases, we have our own, oops, let's go there, let's go to the top. We have this on Freshdesk, which is our new kind of customer portal, where we can give you a login. You can read all about the new features that we've written in Bevica in SaaS. There's lots of help pages you'll see on the side here. These are all things that we've written. There's about 60 or 70 web pages. But this one in particular, this Bevica Essentials releases, really details every time we do a release, be that a major or a minor one, we put in here. So if I scroll down, you'll see a bit more detail. Let's pick this one, for example. So this release we did middle of last month. We've added some new features to do with the reservations and paid reserves, and then we fixed some bugs. So this is kind of a history of all the changes we're making, and we'll keep this updated as we go along. We don't have yet a page that shows what's coming in the future, but that's one of the plans for me for the next 2 to 3 months, is to have a page here where people can go and have a look and see what to expect in the next couple of months. So at the moment, we are averaging a new release every month or so, or just under. If I scroll to the very bottom to our first release, so all these things, what came out of version 1, if you like, and we can go. I can go into more detail of these a bit later on when I show you the software. If anyone wants access to Freshdesk, just let me know, and I can get our support desk to give you a login, and you'll be able to see all the articles that are written. So that's the SaaS product, and that's really where we're putting most of our focus at the moment. In terms of the enterprise version, or the on-premise version that you're all used to, we have upgraded it to version 16, but the product is now onto version, well, will be version 18 in the next month. And what we've realized is that we can't really keep 2 products updated. And with all the capabilities that are in SaaS, we don't see that there's a need to keep the 2 products updated. So what we're doing is we're moving all the functionality from Bevica Enterprise in a kind of priority order into the SaaS product, so that there's a product available for everyone to re-implement to when you plan to move to the latest version. And we really think that moving over to the real SaaS model is where everyone should be, for all the reasons that we've been talking about, and we're going to be covering in a bit. So in terms of what's in, currently what's in Bevica SaaS, so these are kind of cherry picked from that first release we did last year. And these are all things that are in the current version that you're all using. The ones that have got little asterisks next to them, I think what we've been able to do is copy over the principles of how it currently works and improved it. So things like additional charges, traditionally in the on-premise version, you'd put traditional charges on purchase orders, but because we were moving it over and kind of redesigning it, we made them available on every transaction. So be it a sales return, a sales order, purchase order, transfer order, you can add additional charges to all of them. So we thought, let's just get it done at the beginning so everyone can use all the transactions rather than just release purchase orders and then have it on some roadmap for the future. We've improved rotations a lot. So now rotation numbers are part of the item ledgers, whereas before they were not quite so integrated. And then probably the biggest difference is how we manage stock availability. And I definitely want to show you that later on, where at the moment on a sales order, you can only put a quantity on a sales order if you have the stock in inventory. Whereas in SaaS, you can put any quantity on a sales order, which means that you can record kind of demand from your customers much more freely. And then there's a way of reserving stock and managing who gets what stock in a slightly different way, but I think it gives us more flexibility in the product. Improvements on manifests. So again, we've added lots of different transactions to manifests. And then something that's new that one of Andrea's mini projects is the e-commerce API. So we've designed kind of a standard API out of Bevica that web designers can use. And interestingly, both our customers that have gone live on Bevica SaaS, they're both using that. And it's working very well to pull in sales orders from websites and push out things like item details, customer details, stock availability. The duty management and sales purchasing pricing, hopefully you'll see later on that that's pretty much what you're used to. We didn't see any reason to change any of that. The principles are the same with the costings and the duty rates. So in terms of what's next, what we've got so far is what I would consider to be the core, and then in about a month's time we'll be releasing broking and sellerage. So I know some of you are particularly interested in the broking and the sellerage. So that's being able to buy and sell paid reserves, charge people for holding the stock. And alongside with that, because it seemed kind of the right thing to do at the time, is we're starting integration with LiveX. So the ability to put L-wins in the system and pull in market prices. And similarly with Wine Searcher, being able to pull in market prices and display them inside the software. We do plan to do more integration with LiveX and Wine Searcher over time, but that'll probably come in later phases, later in the year or next year. And then for October, so again, mirroring the waves from Microsoft, we've had quite a few requests about UK GT. So we plan to put that into the software, so it's another element of cost that we can manage a bit more accurately than we do at the moment. And also alongside with costs, there's automating the additional charges and the cost modeler, where you can plan kind of the different elements of cost that make up your product and try and plan what the sales price might be given a certain margin and so on. And then in the same way that going into the future, we'll be doing more work with LiveX. We've got an ongoing project to keep working on the warehouse integration with companies like LCB, Octavian, Great Bear, to integrate things like pick notes, receipts, purchase orders as time goes on. So I'll be able to give you more details about that nearer October on exactly what we're doing. So that's kind of the Business Central roadmap and the Bevica roadmap. You know, we have a list of what we're going to be doing and when we're going to be doing it, and they'll all be published on Freshdesk